Hey, IDS-410. It is Module 2 starting tomorrow. Here it's, March 8th at 10:15 a.m. in Phoenix, which is now on Pacific time for the next 8 months or so, right? I don't get it. We don't do daylight savings time, so it actually affects us like every day. All my shows are on an hour earlier, but I'm a Pacific time. So California time makes it easier for you to understand and estimate when you can set up a meeting with me. I'm usually available as early as 8 a.m. On my time, okay? So that's 11 a.m. East Coast and up until even late hours because it's early. Nothing after 7 Pacific time, okay? Hey, I want to just say thank you for your introductions. I've read all of them. I've replied to all of them, posted, talked to you about your project, and I like what I'm seeing. I think a lot of you actually watched my first video, and if you didn't, you watched it after I mentioned watching it. That's awesome because, as I've said, the curriculum is the formal structure of the course. How I teach it, though, is specific to making it more of a personal type of project. I'm not a fan of idealistic thinking that's just kind of make believe, and that I'm like an engineering class and I'm giving you a box of Legos and telling you to make something. It's a little more involved and realistic than that. So I want you to consider your role in your project. We should all have a role in these projects, okay? That's what makes that connection for you, as opposed to just continue to point and say, hey, up there in the Middle East, we should be doing this and that and that. I'm going to solve that. Let's not go there, okay? Because any of the issues that we're solving or mitigating, of course, even at the smallest micro level, is important, because when those things become successful, they can be scaled up, right? It's not possible really to scale down. It usually becomes a waste of time and money and efforts, but scaling up is always something doable. So think of it like this. If you were coming to Professor Fayer's flight school, all right, I wouldn't just say, oh, great, you signed up for flight school. Now let's get in that 747 and see what you got. No, that would be ridiculous, right? You would first go on a simulator. You would first, then you'd maybe graduate up to a Cessna, and et cetera, et cetera. You can say that about anything. If you're going to run a marathon, you don't go out and start practicing at 26.2 miles. You just work your way up. We crawl before we walk, okay, and then before we jog. Anyways, I think that made my point there, right? So the challenge here is that it's something that could be done. You don't have to do this. All right, but some students have done their proposal. They've done their project IRL, and I think I've probably talked about a couple of those. If anybody's interested, I can mention that, but some have done it while the course was going on. Okay, let's see. So the pro tips, again, to be successful in this course is you should not take on the world or the continent or the hemisphere or the state or the country down to your bigger problems are not better, okay? Even though we have a tendency as human beings to think big, right? But remember that bumper sticker: think globally, act locally, right? Okay. Remember the second word in this course: problem solving for social change. We're not doing problem examining, problem research, probably taking a look at it, you know what I mean, right? We're problem solving. So in some sense, you have to think from the end. Even though I don't expect you to have a solution in week 2, I want you to look at your problem as something that could be solved and could be mitigated, right? Mitigation is usually a good term, but you're not going to say problem mitigating for social change. But essentially, we want to go right for the solving. That's the important concept here. You want to keep it down to a community, a neighborhood, a company, a demographic that's specific, because what works going back to the neighborhood, what works in Brooklyn, New York is not going to work in Casper, Wyoming. The dynamics are going to be different. So you can't just blanket something, expect it to work. It's the same with demographics. What you're looking at in terms of for maybe people is even adults, you have to narrow that down. Is it going to be women, men? Is it going to be young families? Is it going to be veterans? Is it going to be disabled? Is it going to be... So there's a specificity to shoot for here, okay? Boy, I've been sick all week and I'm on antibiotics. So we get the whole session, you'll never hear my real voice. By the way, the Grand Canyon was pretty cool, but it was very weird. It was literally cool, but I've been there many times and I was just, yeah, anyways. Oh, so right back there you see, those aren't little hotel shot liquor things. Those are fountain pen inks. I went through a fountain pen enthusiast phase last year and got in over my head. So I've taken my 17 fountain pens down to about, what do I got left? 13, because I'm trying to sell them and get down to the top 10 that I like the most. I love writing with a fountain pen, even though I'm left-handed. My penmanship sucks. I am a writer, though, but frankly, I prefer typing and writing on Scrivener than writing because it keeps up with my pace of thought. Anyways, boy, it was like a commercial in the middle of the video. Let's get to it, right, boss? Okay. So important, all right? When you see bolded terms and concepts in an assignment's instructions, whether it's a discussion board, whether it's a paper, in the rubric, you see bolded terms and concepts. Usually they're numbered. That is a pro tip. Use them as subheadings in your discussion board, in your paper. That way, guess what? I know that you're addressing a specific criteria. Because if you submit just one big blob, I don't care if it's a discussion board or a paper, a big blob, and that forces me to go on a scavenger hunt to look to make sure you covered it. I don't like going on a scavenger hunt, and it's going to hurt your score. I can guarantee it. It's not because I'm not doing my job. It's because you're not doing yours, okay? Use subheadings to organize your paper. Remember, we're academic writing here. We're not creative writing. There's a difference. I do creative writing on the side, but academic writing is different. It's very organized. It has a protocol, and presentation is so important. I make the analogy of, house hunting. You drive up to the front of a house. If you look at it and it's all weeds and whack jobs and nothing's painted, everything's a mess, you're going to keep going. That house inside may have everything you've ever dreamt of. And all it needed was some outside work. All right? Same with a paper. Okay? It's curb appeal. Am I going to see an organized paper that a student put an effort in? Yes, I would like to see that. So remember subheadings, okay? Submit all papers in Word docs. If it's a PDF, I'm going to give you a 0. Try to get your attention. I tell you to resubmit it, okay? Times New Roman, 12-point font, double line spacing. Try to use APA formatting. I'm not going to be really punitive on that, but I will try to help you. Please make an effort, okay, for citations and such. Citations come before the punctuation. Try to remember that. That's a big one. You don't start the next sentence with a citation. You end the previous sentence with the citation, right? Okay, looking at it from the end game. What are we talking about? Sometimes it's easier to think from the end, as I talked about a solution, but also in this final paper. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to post attach at least one final paper that scored 400 out of 400 in Module 7, just to show you what we're trying to get to here, okay? So sometimes that's very helpful for people. As you see that, as you're building your paper throughout this course, putting it together, making the appropriate tweaks and modifications at the end, you'll know what looks like a 400 paper. You don't have to look at the rubric down there. I don't think you can see it anyways, but just know that the paper I'm going to submit is going to have all these subheadings that exactly match the criteria, okay? And you can see how that paper is composed, okay? So contact me if you have any questions. You know what? I love it. I think I've connected with 5 or 6 students already in the first week. That's fabulous. I like that. That means, you're invested. You want to get it right. You don't want to waste time. You want to be efficient. So let's do that if you need to, okay? Thank you for watching the video. Continue to do that. Read the announcements. Of course, the course curriculum. I'm not going through it here because I'm sure you're capable enough to do that on your own in the module. Okay, 10:06, and not bad. Have a good week. Talk to me if you want. Peace.